Let's return very briefly now to our top story this morning. 24,000 DA supporters in Polokwane, 50,000 EFF supporters in Tembisa. That's the size of the crowds pulled during opposition party rallies at the weekend. The DA and the EFF both launched their election manifestos ahead of the 7th of May general elections. Well, to unpack some of the pledges in these manifestos, we're joined by political analyst Dr. Somadoda Fikeni, live from our studios in Pretoria. Dr. Fikeni, thank you very much this morning. I mean, jobs, unemployment and poverty issues seems to dominate the themes of these manifestos.
The economy, unemployment, poverty, inequality and corruption is what is common throughout all the manifestos that have been launched so far, and it is expected to be the case with the remaining parties.
And what is going to help me as a voter to make a decision? What will differentiate them?
One, how credible and how practical is that, and the credibility of leaders in keeping their promises once they make them. And secondly, it is the policy content itself as to whether it addresses the problems at their very core. And those are the two things that I think are going to be very helpful. But we do know that history and memory still plays a very important role, just as identity, though this in some instances is being diffused, but it is still a very important issue.
How important is identity for a party like the DA, for instance?
The fact that it is still saddled with the perception and the stigma that it is the party of whites and it is the party of the rich and the middle class, whether they try to present the numbers, that issue still comes back, and some in the Western Cape are even using the expenditure in the suburbs vis-a-vis those in the informal settlements and the farms as a case in point. So I do think that they'll have to do a lot more, and also their vacillation on the issues of affirmative action, black economic empowerment, did hurt them a little bit, so they have to be more forthright on this.
We can't read too much about what we saw in Polokwane at the weekend for the DA?
It's a very important symbolic step. One, it's one of the two poorest provinces, and it's predominantly black. ANC has always been scoring 80%, 90% in that province. That they are able to say we have a foothold outside the metros, outside the Western Cape and Gauteng, is quite significant. DA, though incrementally, is diversifying its own constituency.
Let's look at the EFF very briefly. They seem to be addressing themselves a lot on to poor people in South Africa. Do you think that's a winning formula?
It's a winning formula for them because they are targeting the disenchanted and those who are simply against the system, be that government or markets or the society's way of doing things. They can capture those in the fringes of the society, because in the middle class levels, even when Julius Malema was the leader of the Youth League, he didn't seem to spend too much time addressing their concerns.
Okay, thank you very much. That's political analyst, live from our studios in Pretoria, Dr. Somadoda Fikeni.
Know more about your world.
eNCA.com